G'day, it's Justin Hogg from RightSource talking not-for-profits and helping you deal with the good problem of having too much cash. There is quite a lot of angst I've found where not-for-profits that do find themselves having more cash or some spare cash about feeling, I suppose, what should we do about it? Because there is a general perception that if you're a not-for-profit, you should be spending your cash effectively as soon as you get it or very quickly soon after. So you shouldn't be holding on to a whole heap of cash. But sometimes because of circumstance, because of a large donation, because of restrictions in terms of what they can and can't do, not-for-profits sometimes find themselves with a large amount of cash on hand. And that can cause a great amount of angst because they're not sure whether they should, or even if they do, how they should use it and how they should take care of it. So that's what I wanted to talk through, was give a sort of an understanding of sort of the thought process around having that good problem of having too much cash, and as a not-for-profit, the thought process in terms of dealing with that. The first thing to look at when you've got a reasonable cash balance is, well, what do I need as an organization in terms of working cash or working capital? And every organization, whether you're not-for-profit or for-profit, needs a working capital surplus, so that cash just to operate, to lube the machine. Now, how much you need, which is obviously the million-dollar question, it varies between business and business, the size of business, seasonality, how lumpy your expenditure is, how lumpy your inflow is in terms of revenue. So it's very hard to say it's this amount. Rough starting point, let's say it's a month's worth of expenditure. So that's sort of a very rough starting point in terms of working capital. That is really giving you a month worth of being able to pay your bills and should still have revenue. And so let's start with working capital as a month. Now, okay, does that mean for everything else above that I should spend? Well, the next step to look at, so you looked at working capital. The next thing to look at is then your business continuity planning. So this is a very important part of the risk management of your organization, the long-term sustainability of it. Is like your business sustainability plan will talk about what happens when things go wrong. Part of that plan will be an estimate of how much cash reserves you need in order to deal with some of these things that happen. So that could be a change in contract, a change in legislation. It could be a lockdown or a pandemic. It could be something that comes out of the blue that your organization needs to be able to absorb and potentially pivot from. So how much cash will your business continuity plan sort of require? Again, it depends on a lot of things, but it could be up to 4 to 5 months worth of expenditure again, just obviously to give you that period of time where revenue might not be coming in, or you might need to inject some cash to get something happening so you can pivot your business. So with your working capital and your business continuity plan, you'll get to a figure that might be 3 to 6 months worth of monthly expenditure, which isn't a small amount. But then you still might have cash over and above that. So do you spend that? Well, cash over and above that amount really is that amount that allows you not-for-profit to actually take a more strategic focus, to actually think about, well, where is it going longer term and what other things are possible? And that's how you can then look at the cash. So the cash might be things for like building a new facility. I mean, that might take a long time to save up the cash to be able to build that facility. So you will have a reasonable amount of cash on your balance sheet for a period of time whilst going through that process. It might be looking to expand. It might be adding new services. All these things take a cash injection into the business when you're about to do it. So having that cash on the balance sheet can be used for that strategic purpose. Now, the holy grail of not-for-profit is actually creating income, passive income that's coming in that supports the not-for-profit going forward. And this is something you can use the cash for. If you have an amount of money that you're going to look to invest to create some passive income or just grow the amount of cash that you have, this is, I suppose, a governance process in itself, because you want to make sure that you have oversight of where the money's going, that you're investing in things that are aligned with your organization and aligned with its purpose. Plus, you then also, I mean, this may not be your skill set. You may not have the skill set to do investment. So you're going to want to incorporate into your board a process that manages that investment process. So to create that investment process, well, obviously there's a policy, an investment policy that you probably want to put in place. But if you're serious about doing investment, especially if it's a large amount of money and if you're looking over a larger time frame, I would definitely recommend getting in an investment advisor to help you manage that investment. In fact, it could even be their job to ensure the investment is placed appropriately and that the returns are managed and the funds are accounted for accordingly. But this brings us all back to the initial question, I suppose, of like, with a not-for-profit that has a lot of cash and having a lot of angst, should you have angst? Well, I don't think so. In fact, I think a not-for-profit having cash is a good thing. I mean, obviously you need it for working capital, you need it for business continuity, so that helps with the sustainability of the organization. And then lastly, that ability to think strategically about what you're doing with your not-for-profit in terms of achieving its purpose longer term, of working with others, and potentially even of creating that investment portfolio, which then provides you that longer term sustainable income or cash that you can draw on in the longer term. That all allows you to achieve your purpose ongoing and gives you a better chance of getting to the end of the journey. So for me, having cash in not-for-profit is a good thing. Make sure you manage it appropriately, and obviously talk to those who can help you work through that process and get to a point where you feel comfortable in managing that cash in your not-for-profit. So that's really it, what I want to share today. If you have any questions about today's video, feel free to reach out. Happy to talk about how you manage your cash and get into more detail and provide contacts if you're interested in looking at those who might be able to provide you with that investment planning side. Otherwise, check out YouTube. There's lots of other videos we've got on there. Feel free to subscribe. Otherwise, thank you for your time. It's Justin Hogg from RightSource.